living in Thailand, in Phuket, it is the majority of the people on the island are from another place. They aren't Thai. And even the Thai people are not from Phuket. So one of the things I remember seeing every day on my way to work was this giant sign that said, this was after the coup, that said, "Foreigners, this is not your country. Don't talk about our politics like you can, like you can, basically. Like you have any say in what goes on." And seeing that sign every day really made me think, like, their politics and what's going on in their government affects me every minute of every day, especially during the coup. But they're telling me I don't have a right to be upset that the visas rules change every other minute of every other day, and how it's costing me hundreds of dollars a month because of their changes. They don't care. And at that point, I was more aware of what was happening in Thai politics than I had ever been in another country besides the U.S. And I felt like even though it's affecting me, they're right. I don't really have a choice.
That's bullshit.
I
disagree.
I don't.
You have a right. Just the fact that you were a worker.
Yeah, and I paid taxes.
It gave you the right. The problem is, of course, governments do not want. They don't want the people that they are. They don't want their people influenced by outsiders. That's always a thing.
Yeah.
Okay? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't say anything. I mean, yeah, you should say something. I mean, imagine if Americans really knew the expat immigrant experience of people today.
Yeah.
And they really knew it. Yeah, they might fight against the government because of what they see as injustice. Mm-hmm. They might, or at least some percentage of people would be against it, and there might be some kind of outcry. Yeah, that's important. So imagine that flipped into another government. You're coming into that country. You're now that immigrant. You're now that person. And shouldn't your story be told? Shouldn't people know? Like, if I'm a Thai person, should I know what people go through when they come through the immigration service in my country? I'm the one that, if anybody can change it, it's me. Yeah. I'm the only. They can't really change it. They can't vote in our elections. They can't do anything locally as far as politics are concerned. But if they tell me I'm supposed to have whatever rights I have as a citizen, so the responsibility then falls to me to do something about this negative situation. So in the States,
do you have any idea of what goes on in the immigration process?
Very little. In the States.
Yeah.
Very little.
The only thing I know is it takes a long time.
It takes a long time.
And it's super expensive.
Time consuming.
I've learned a little more.
Sure.
Right. I've learned a little more since being here because the other American teacher I work with immigrated to the U.S. when she was 9 with her family, and some of the stories that she has told me about her experience have been appalling.
But think about it now. I mean,
but it's even worse now.
But it's different. It's not the same. So even knowing what that person went through is going to be different than what people are going through today. Some of it similar, but...
And it took them years and years and years.
Yeah, I think it's like that in lots of places. The problem is people are protecting their borders from other people for different reasons.
Yeah.
And sometimes the reason is ethnic. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the reason is economic. Mm-hmm. And like, what real reason does any country have to
Some of
keep
them are religious.
other people out? Might be religious. Like, what are you keeping this group out for, and why are you allowing this group in to your particular country? What is the purpose of that? And I think what we're learning is, through all of this stuff, it's kind of bubbling up. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. You know, maybe we're closer to the Star Trek Earth. Because there's no reason for trying to stop the movement of people. I mean, like, what, for years you'd pick up the phone and to call about your computer, and who are you getting? Somebody in India.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just, we're getting to the point now where you could be a teacher and you could be teaching kids anywhere in the world, all through your device. Why are borders stopping people from moving around? And the idea, I honestly, it seems like it would just be, like, why have such hard borders? What are you trying to protect yourself from? Like, people coming from Mexico into the United States, you know, it's a relevant example these days. But if they're going into what are they going for? And how is it going to negatively impact people in the United States?
They're going.
I mean, that's the question, right? What is it? What's the? I get crime. Nobody wants to have people, but if they could work, they would have little reason to do the crime.
Right.
I mean, nobody goes to a place to do crime. They go to a place to make money.
Right.
Crime is a way to make money, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I had another way, I have no reason to do any of the crime.
Yep.
Like, why take that risk when I could just get a job? So why not just get a job? Why? Because Americans love their drugs. And Americans like things that are illegal. So when the drugs come over, they're automatically selling something to people that want it that is illegal.
Yep.
But the people are going to get it whether that person comes across the border or not. Yep. They're going to get it. It's like marijuana. They were going to get it. Cocaine, they're going to get it. Heroin, going to get it. They're going to get all the drugs. So then, is it the people or the drugs that are the problem? Maybe it's the need for those things by Americans.
Well, and here's the thing, like,
stop putting people that take drugs in jail.
They're always, it's the crime, they're going to come here and be criminals. Most of the immigrants don't come there and become criminals.
Right, they're
the ones who are picking your food, who are growing your food, who are cooking your food, who are stocking the shelves for your food.
Yeah, exactly. It's
all the things that Americans don't want to do.
All of the things that were part of slavery.
Cleaning up. Yeah,
it's all of the jobs that Americans do not want to do anymore. That's why I never understood that. It's like I was never worried. In all the time of working, in all the jobs I've ever had, I've never been sitting there going, wow, if these people come across the border, I'm not going to be able to work.
No,
because I'm not doing the jobs that they are doing at all. Like, even with a high school education and just like in school, at university, and getting jobs, I still was doing jobs that those people were not able to do.
Right.
So I'm even with a high school diploma, I'm not competing with those people. So why am I worried? Why am I scared of those people? Bring them in, bring them on. Why not? You know, what's the worst thing that's going? What are you scared of? That's what I don't get. I don't get that. Now, there are places around the world that don't want Americans coming in too.
Yep.
And you ask the same question. What are you scared of? What is it that you're trying to keep out? You got African countries. People are escaping, trying to escape out of African countries into Europe, into the EU. Why?
Asia.
What are you scared of? What are you stopping?
Yep.
There's some people that, and we saw this in the States, but you see this all over the world, where somebody is a teacher, a doctor, a professor, a white collar worker in their home country, and they come to the United States and they're cab drivers. Why is that happening? Why are we not looking at these people as assets? Why are people not assets that have a certain level of education? Why are we looking upon these people as being less than or not good as or whatever? They did the schooling to be able to do the thing where they came from. Maybe they have to learn English. That's one.
Yeah.
Maybe they have to learn how Americans do that same job. Okay, fine, the further training. I don't have a problem with that. But why would they not be able to get credentialed and keep doing what they had been doing and making money? Why are you stopping them from doing it? What are you scared of? And who's the you in this thing?
I had a friend in my freshman year of university.
Let's talk about that.
And her father, she was from Hungary, and her father was the leading brain surgeon in Hungary. And when he came to the US, he wasn't allowed to even work in a hospital without going back to medical school. He had invented like some technique that the doctors all over the world were using. And he had to go back to medical school in the United States in order to work there. And he had been a brain surgeon for 20 years.
But this is keeping people out. I mean, it's kind of like it's I think our system of education is not one of education, but one of privilege.
Yeah.
You have to prove
elitism.
Right. You have to prove that you can fit into the group. It's like every type of work has its own form of hazing. Just like every college fraternity and sorority. They all have their own little thing that they do to weed out some people and to admit others. And anybody who's been on a college campus knows that not everybody makes it. I mean, we watch it in the military. Same thing. Not everybody makes it. And we have that, and I don't think we are better for it. I just think we're not focused on educating people so that they can do a thing. So even if it takes you 5 years or 6 years or 7 years to learn it and then get good at it and then go into it, then that's fine. That's not a big problem. But if you don't get it done in X amount of time in this way, then you're not part of the club.
Right.
And I think that's just a failure inside of our education system, that we think you can only be educated our way. So then that's why you have a guy who could be a doctor on one hand, come into the United States, and now has to go back to school with people that are going to be far lower than that person.
Yep.
But now you're saying to them, you are one of them. You are not one of us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no. But that's how Americans think. That's what, I mean, outside of language and outside of, being able to communicate, because everybody's got a different language, they're coming from different places.
Yeah.
Outside of those things, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just our hubris.
Yeah.
To think we have to do it. You have to do it our way. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't get educated our way, then you well, and I think you're less than.
I think the most ironic part of that was he decided not to practice medicine in the U.S. because he was only there while she was at university, and then they were going back to Hungary. So what he did instead is he became a university professor, teaching the thing that he had done for 20 years, but he couldn't do it in the U.S.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but honestly,
he wasn't educated enough to work in the U.S. and would have to take education in the U.S., but he was smart enough to give education in the U.S. Doesn't make any sense. And this happens every day in all sorts of fields.
Yeah, but we also believe as a country that those who can't do teach.
True. I can't play football, so I'm going to coach.
Those who can't do teach. Which is weird, because what does that make teachers? What about those who teach teachers? What does that make them?
Double can't doers?
Right. Yeah, I as far as like people going and looking at the situation that they're in, the country that they happen to be in, or looking at other countries around the world, I think that analysis is necessary. I think people need to start doing more of that. People need to be more educated. You should know about Poland.
Right.
You should know about history, politics, and all those things worldwide. That should be a focus, but it's not. It's not a thing that's even thought about teaching at the K through 12 level of thinking about the rest of the world.
Right.
I mean, it's a big deal to think about the rest of the, like, to another state in the United States. You know, I remember doing that in 3rd, 4th grade.
Me too.
Where you picked another state and you kind of researched that state. But the problem was most people researched states that were close by to the state that they were in.
Yep, mine was,
know.
my two were Wyoming and Ohio.
So, I mean, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, we're not taught to see the world as it is and to learn about it and to ask the questions and to get an understanding of the world. We're just not taught to do those things.
No.
So, what do? We close ourselves off and we only look at ourselves and we think that these problems only exist here.
Right. Yep. I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday because she was, she asked me where we lived and could she come stay with us because the stuff that was going on around them was so bad. She's in Georgia, and it's so bad, and they're afraid for, you know, she's like, I'm afraid for my husband's life, and I'm afraid for my sons and my nephews and my grandchildren because, you know, crazy ass white men are grabbing guns and just shooting folks for taking a morning jog. And she's like, does this happen where you are? And I said, no. I mean, they have their own problems, but no, that doesn't happen. I said, this is part of the reason why I have no desire to go back to the United States, because I don't want to live in that fear. And she's like, have you ever had that fear anywhere else that you've lived? And I said, no.
But expats are slightly different. We don't like for example, we don't move through the spaces that we're in
Unaware.
the same way that the local population does.
Yes, it's true. I always
So
feel
it
hyper
becomes
aware.
slightly different. It's slightly different. We just don't do it. In other words, we're never at home.
No.
We never feel at home. Now, those people that stop being expats and
Start being immigrants.
Yeah, they start being immigrants. They do that, but then I'm sure their story changes as well from one of an expat to then one of an immigrant.
Right.
And you know, as they start to get into the society more, maybe through marriage, maybe through their job, as they start to kind of start moving the way people from there move, then they start getting into those other situations that,
Right.
say, expats may never ever get to see because they're not really in the society.
Yep.
They're just kind of on the periphery.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we've had to have this conversation. Well, I've had this conversation, especially here more than anywhere else, about what's the difference between an expat and an immigrant. And my short version is an expat is planning to leave, an immigrant is planning to stay. And it changes how we approach our world.
yeah. I mean, we spend knowing that you're coming to you're in the last year of your contract, you basically are now thinking about leaving for an entire year.
Right. Well, if you're in the last year of your contract, for us as expats, the last year of your contract at the 9-month mark, you have 9 months left. You are already job searching, making plans for other countries, potentially looking for places to live. This is the latest it's ever been for us. And it's kind of like stressing me out because normally I have so many more months to plan to do all the things that we need to do. And right now I have 2 months, and it's really starting to affect how I sleep, which this happens every single time. This is normal.
But you're not going to work every day.
I'm not going to work every day. But I didn't in China before we left. But something I didn't worry about in China was money. But here I worry about the money. Because even if both of us were working, we still wouldn't have had the savings that we had in China. And we also have more things to get rid of here than we did in China.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We have to sell it, pretty much everything.
We have to not only sell everything, but we have to release some of the things that we've been holding on to. Because honestly, there's a whole lot of stuff that we had to buy here to live here.
Right.
It's like, is this the place that we've had to buy the most stuff?
Yeah, we've never had to buy beds before.
Just to live in Mexico.
We've never had to buy furniture like this before. We've had to buy desks and we've had to buy shelves. No big deal. But to buy every
shit in Thailand.
Every piece of furniture, we bought a bed.
Yeah.
A single bed. But to have to buy literally every dish, silverware, piece of furnishings, and now we have to sell it all. And how do you do that and still live in the space?
So you need to, hit us up on Facebook if you want some shit.
So let's talk about your Patreon real quick before we go.
Patreon? What about your Patreon?
Well,
Wait a minute. This is not mine. This is the Traveling Farr's Patreon page.
Are you going to do some exclusive content in the Patreon page? Are you going
exclusive content? I think that thing that you guys were seeing was the highest tier of Patreon. We're not at the highest tier. We don't have that many people, so we don't have to necessarily do exclusive things. We can do things for the people that are patrons. But it's not like that thing you were looking at, the highest thing, like when you have 10,000 people following you already, 10,000 people, then you're doing all these exclusive things. Man, I'm still coming up with things that we could do, but honestly, if y'all support us, then we're gonna throw them in the video, man. We're gonna let it roll and let people see who they are and that kind of stuff,
Are we doing like free advertising for the business if they're a patron?
What? I don't know. That's something you want to do? You want to do free advertising?
I didn't say free. I said if they're a patron.
If they're a patron, you want to give them
advertising.
A shout out?
Yeah,
maybe we can give them a shout out. I don't know about free advertising, but a shout out.
We do it every November.
That's what November's for. Stay tuned. November's coming.
I don't have any ideas at this moment, Tito, but...
Yeah, well, maybe you need to write your ideas down. List maker. You got anything else for the people this week? I don't think I have anything else. How long has it been? Oh, God. We've been sitting here for 6 hours.
Nope, I have nothing else.
All right. Good. You have to do the finger thing now. If you want to follow the Traveling Farrs, you can definitely hit us up at I'm pointing to our Patreon information that's down there somewhere. I think it's patreon.com/thetravelingfars. Patreon. We want money. All right. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever good podcasts are sold. You can find us on the Instagram and the Twitters at Traveling Farrs. The email, travelingfars@gmail.com, and the blog space, the travelingfars.blueberry.net. No E's in the blueberry. Got all that?
Good.
Yeah, did you do the thing?
I did it.
Did you feel like a young teenage boy?
I did not feel like a young teenage boy.
That's it. That's all I got, man. Okay. I got nothing else.
Great.
Say goodbye to the people.
Bye, people. Bye, people. Bye, people.
Peace!
I even tried to do his hand, but I'm not good at
You can always just...
that.